Hey guys, welcome to a rainy Friday morning out in the garage. Last night I was able to retrieve the other items I got at the early television convention and brought them home, so that's what I want to talk about in this video. I'm also shooting with the new 4K camera. Thanks for the response to the sample video I posted. It's very encouraging. And I also wanted to let you know that editing, processing, uploading the larger files is no issue whatsoever. So generally I think I will be posting in 4K from now on. So I picked up 3 picture tubes. I posted a photo and there seemed to be some interest in the box, so I thought I'd show those, and I wanted to discuss a few things. So we have an RCA Silverama. We have a GE Black Daylight, and we have a Channel Master. I'm sure you've heard of RCA and GE. They were major manufacturers who made picture tubes. Channel Master only rebuilt picture tubes. However, take a look at these boxes. So we have some cool graphics, some advertising, some slogans. Progress is our most important product. I'm guessing that might mean the 30th week in 1963. That would make sense. But we'll take a look at this. Notice all material and parts used in the manufacture of this tube are new except for the envelope. We have the same notice on the RCA. All 3 of these are rebuilds. The major manufacturers rebuilt picture tubes and sold them. RCA was probably the biggest of the group, and they had some major CRT manufacturing facilities. So I didn't think that they ever got into the rebuilding game. I thought that was, well, beneath them, so to speak. So one of my viewers said, hey, you know, Silverama picture tubes are actually rebuilds. I don't know what they call their new ones, but yeah, I looked up in a CRT manual, and yeah, these are rebuilt. The one thing I'm curious about, since RCA definitely made their own CRTs from the bottom up, when they rebuilt it using an existing CRT, and they're going to put their name on it and resell it, what if the glass envelope was made by a competitor? In other words, did they only rebuild RCA CRTs, or did they rebuild anybody? So why was rebuilding such a big deal? It was a huge industry back in the day. Because, well, after a few years of heavy use, your picture tube would start to wear out, and TVs were very, very expensive, so people would get the picture tubes replaced. However, picture tubes were also very, very expensive. So, rebuilding was an option, and they cost less. How much less? I couldn't tell you. Let's just assume it's half, or something to that effect. Enough that there was a huge rebuilding industry. Apparently making that glass envelope was expensive. I would have thought the expense was in the electron gun assembly and flashing the getter and making sure the picture tube worked and all that. And that molding the glass was the easy part. But apparently there was a lot of value in that glass envelope. So they would cut the neck off, possibly flush out the phosphor and recoat it, attach a new electron gun, seal the glass, evacuate the air, flash the getter, activate the cathode, test it, pop it into a box, and sell it at a discount compared to a brand new made one. It seems crazy to me, but it was a huge industry, enough that all the major players and plenty of homegrown operations were in the game. Something else to note. Important, remove and insert tube from other end. So all the printing and all that would make you think that this is the right side up, and you open it from this and pull it out. But no, these are all face down. And they want you to flip the box open it and pull it out of the other end. And often I store them with the face up. I've seen a few situations where there's a little bit of debris inside, and from shipping and whatnot, you get scratches in the face of the CRT. Also, as you'll see in an upcoming video, I've had a few instances where a tiny bit of the electron gun structure broke loose. Insignificant, a little chip of glass off the support structure was loose inside, and with the phosphor down, that little bit of glass annihilated the phosphor, put hundreds of specks and flaws into it. It wouldn't happen if it was stored face up. And as for what is inside, this one I already popped the staples on it. These are generally they're pretty well supported inside, so you can stack these boxes several high. Usually they don't stack more than 2 or 3 high, but at the museum they had them 5, 6, 7 high. This can support a lot of weight and it protects the neck. Why did I buy these? For upcoming restorations for customers' TVs. I have some that have dead or very weak CRTs, so that's why I got them. I was asked if I'm going to save the boxes. Maybe, or maybe I'll cut out a portion of them. Over the years I've had a number of CRT boxes, some of them a lot nicer looking than these. I'd say this is the nicest of them. The Channel Master ones are kind of generic. Well, I guess on this side it's kind of cool to have a sort of a blowout picture of what's inside. Or no, of an image on a CRT. But this is water stained. The RCA is water stained and kind of dented in a bit, so I don't know, torn up from people grabbing the carrying handles. And then there's this, which honestly I don't know a whole lot about. I only saw it very briefly when I picked it up, and I saw some photos. This the previous owner I provided. I was about to say the seller, but this was a donation, so it was very kind. I was contacted by I think it was the son of the gentleman who had originally owned and worked on this. He threw this in as well. Or maybe it was somebody who dropped off a predict. I forget. Somewhere along my adventures that weekend I acquired this, which is a Philco warranty card and some tips on how to get the best picture. It's from 1957. Be sure to fill out this card now for full warranty protection. Philco Corporation, 2nd and Westmoreland Streets, Philadelphia, PA. It's actually a picture tube serial number, not a TV picture tube serial number. So I wonder if this was a warranty card for a picture tube, because notably this is a TV chassis. There's no picture tube. And I'm still not entirely sure what type it takes. I think, judging from what I briefly looked at with the advertising blurb about this set, it's a 20-inch first gen rectangular, which might be a little tricky to track down, but it can be adapted to use other types. These have nothing to do with this. These are replacement antenna rods for Philco TV that were provided by the previous owner of the Philco 1702 I picked up at the convention. We'll talk about that in a separate video. So what is this? This is a high performance, high fidelity TV chassis only from Radio Craftsman. Nothing to do with Sears Craftsman tools. This was a chassis you could buy for custom installations. It's gorgeous, it's chrome plated, has an eye tube, high fidelity, whatever that means. It was sort of like the Scott radio of its day in the TV world. And we have everything here, including a whole bunch of service info, installation instructions, and whatnot. We have the chassis. Looks like we have all the knobs. This swings up. This would be for the CRT. Has a permanent magnet for focus rather than a yoke And I mean, so rather than a focus coil, of course, we have a yoke here. Let's see, some tubes. I saw from his provided photos and a trap magnet that some servicing had been done. There was a strap to hold the CRT in. And there was the bracket that held the CRT in. So, when I saw a photo of this, notice how straight everything is. When they transitioned from perfectly round CRTs to rectangular CRTs, the first ones they made had super flat sides. They were made out of like pressed glass. And I believe they made the front as one piece of glass and the cone and the neck as a separate piece and welded them together. Those were heavy, they were clunky. They later refined the technology and went from straight sides to more curvy sides and used thinner glass. Curves are stronger than flat surfaces when it comes to resisting air pressure. So it's funny. The very first rectangular CRTs were super flat, straight. It wasn't until we get like in the 90s that CRTs were flat with more squared up, very flat sides again. In between, they were curved slightly for strength and to use less glass. I imagine to ease manufacture. So that's why I think this uses a first gen. And it looks like a 20-inch rectangular. Now, because they were only used for about a year or two, they're a little hard to find. This might also be a 16-inch. I have a couple extras of those because that doesn't. I don't know how high up this sits on the set, but imagine this was the bottom. That to that doesn't look like 20 inches to me. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I can certainly use a test CRT in the interim to get this thing running. Now, could it just work as is? Well, it's from the early 50s, like 51, 52. And according to what I saw in here, some work had already been done. So I suspect it needs a recap. It has bumblebees in it, paper caps. But what's really cool, aside from all what I just said, the servicing info, this installation info, it's really well done. Really nice graphics, really detailed. So this is the front cover. Huh, now this says 216R and 217R. Oh, those are the mounting kits. The chassis is an RC200. Okay, confused on that. So this is just installation instructions for the CRT. Doesn't seem to mention what CRT type we're talking about. But boy, I mean, they even give you the dimensions of every screw and where they go. So that is cool. Since I won't very much need this I need to put a CRT into it. Let's see, what all do we have here? Oh yeah, so the guy I got this from mentioned this was in there. He thinks that, or we think that maybe he was doing some TV DXing. These are, it's like a log of all the stations in the country. Now, if he could pick all these up, I'd be very surprised. It might have just been a list of active stations at the time, because there's stuff from all over the country. From LA to Baltimore, Newark, Utica, Toledo, all points in between, Virginia, Alabama, Ohio, Nebraska, North Carolina. So I think he broke down by channel number and listed all the stations in the country. But hey, he left out Chicago. That seems odd. Yeah, he left out, I mean, we definitely had, for instance, Channel 9 was WGN in Chicago. Okay, so it's not everything. Maybe he was DXing, and maybe he did pick these up. Oh, sorry, here's one Chicago. Channel 7 WENR. Huh. That's ABC is in my lifetime anyways. But that would be pretty wild if you could DX stuff from LA and New York, WOR. Oh, he does have, sorry, I missed it. Illinois, Chicago, WGN, Channel 9. It's cool. I'm not sure if it's call log, though, because typically in a call log, it would have listed a date and a time as well, and maybe the condition of the signal, not just a list of stations. So I'm not sure what that is all about. All right, what else do we have here? There's all sorts of stuff. This is from a completely different set. Okay, Jupes. Looks like we have a combination of several different things in here. This is the Craftsman. I think we have the schematic here. If I can. So there we go. A little worn out, obviously. Some time has been spent going over this. It's a relatively conventional design. But curious though, for the power supply, uses a full bridge rectifier using selenium rectifiers. But two of them are rated for 200 milliamps and two of them are for 75 milliamps. You would think they'd all be the same. But they aren't, so I'm guessing two of them have more current going through than the other two for some reason. Hope you all can see that. Interesting way of drawing it too. So on these filters, capacitor, choke capacitor, very standard arrangement, they just combine the two negatives together with this long curve and put it to ground. Handy because it really reinforces that both these caps are in one can together. Now here's our audio output. Here's our high fidelity. We have push-pull 6W6 driven by a 6C4 phase inverter and a 6AU6. Is that high fidelity? I suppose in the TV world you don't often see push-pull. That's the big console. There's our 6AL7 tuning eye. Here's our FM sound detector. It's a little more complicated than your typical sound detector. Wow, this is split carrier? Am I seeing this right? Huh. I would have thought by the time this was made, everything was intercarrier. Yeah, sure looks like it. What do I mean? I mean, right after the tuner, they have separate IF paths for the sound versus the video. Whereas by the early 50s, everything was intercarrier, meaning right after the tuner, you just go through the IF and the sound is actually picked off with a trap after the video amp. I suppose you can get better fidelity because you can tune both IS for their specific purpose, video versus audio. However, they're trickier to align and set up. Otherwise, 6BQ6, 6W4 damper, 1B3 high voltage rectifiers, 12AU7, some 6SN7s. That sort of looks pretty conventional. Jupe, you having fun with some bubble wrap? Let's see, what else do we have? We have some notes. 1954, it was serviced. Plus horizontal output tube. So this will be fun to go through with all the notes. 1957, change horizontal output tube again. Some more notes from 57. So this was used for quite some time. Photocopies of the schematic. Well, we have the original paperwork from when it was purchased. Or No, just parts were purchased in 1954. So we ordered some parts directly from the manufacturer. It's this one, I think it is. It's a selenium rectifier catalog by Federal. It's a real relic of the past. High density. First in preference, first in performance. High density selenium rectifiers. It's a good idea at the time to replace power hungry tubes, but didn't stand up too well. Wow, this dude was pretty hardcore. He checked, looks like the mutual transconductance on every tube. Guess he really wanted to maintain that performance. Again, this is 57. Looks like we got a major overhaul in 57. Service instructions. 52, replaced the RF amp. Well, that was servicing done in 51. More servicing in 51 and servicing in 52. So it's curious. It's something I get asked about now and then, is how often were TVs serviced back in the day? Well, this gives you some idea. This was probably made in 50, late 50 maybe, and by 51 it was already being serviced. A lot of servicing in 52, a ton of servicing in 57. We don't know how much it was used. It wasn't all that much programming back, but let's assuming they were using it a few hours every day. Seems like within a year it needed servicing, and within another year it needed a bunch more servicing. So I'm going to have to go through all this and sort it out. So the original catalog, it's all separated out. Oh, here we go. Bam. All our answers right here. Glad I didn't stop. December 29, 1950. That's certainly late 1950. So here's what it cost. So just the chassis itself, I don't know if it came with all tubes or not, $252. Which seems pretty reasonable. Then again, it's just a chassis. Might have been extra for, yeah, so here were the prices for the picture tube. So there's the 20-inch, a 20 CP4. I hope it doesn't need that, because I don't have one, and the museum has one. It's funny because somebody just asked me about it. And I commented, I said, oh, the museum has one used one in stock. It certainly is not a 19 AP4. That's a gigantic round metal cone. But could it be a 16 TP4? Maybe. Maybe that would be an early 16-inch rectangular. Credit, $327. 45 days immediate delivery, RC 101. So I'm not sure. So there's the price list, but I don't know what he actually ordered. Okay, so this is thanking him for his order. These are revised prices. And it looks like he spent $327 on this, if I'm reading this right. So, that's all very cool. I'm going to have to sort through the paperwork and get this up on the workbench and take a look at it. It looks like the chrome is impeccable. It's dusty, a little bit dirty, but I don't see any corrosion or pitting. So what am I going to do with it? Well, that's a very good question. It was meant to be installed in a cabinet, or I've seen a lot of cases where it's put into a wall. Like in somebody's somebody's rec room or some such, a man cave. I'm not going to do that. I don't know where to do something like that. But I also don't want to hide it inside of just an ugly big wooden box. So I'll try to put it out on display somewhere. I don't think I'd go so far as to make a lucite box for it. But it is too pretty to hide away. Now, as you know, I have a ton of outstanding projects. As much as I'd love to get this up on the workbench and fool around with it, I just can't yet. Let's see. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, I hope to get about 5 TVs done and out of here. And then I have to double down and get that big load of sets from New York all done by early September. With all that stuff gone, I will have plenty of space and a lot more time. I hope we can look at it before September, but for sure after the first weekend in September when the Vintage Computer Fest happens, I'll have more time for my own little pet projects. That is going to be it for now. Hope you enjoyed this look at some new old stock rebuilt CRTs and a Craftsman RC 200 high fidelity chrome plated, very cool chassis from late 1950.